going to talk about reinventing ourselves. We'll give it a few minutes for people to get on. We usually have, I don't know, 5 to 8 people, which is great. I love small groups. Hello. We'll wait for people to get on. Takes a few minutes. Hopefully we'll have a good conversation today about reinventing yourself in this crazy time. Figuring out what else you can do besides what you're doing now. If you've decided that what you're doing now is not a good fit for you, well, we'll talk about that. Have one person on. Welcome. Any comments on the left? Go ahead and put those on. We usually get a handful of people, which is great. I love answering questions in small groups. As we get started here, just a reminder, I'm Julie Bauke. You may hear me on the Scott Sloan Show on Wednesday mornings. You may have listened to my podcast, The Evolved Career, or follow me on social media, seen me on Fox 19, any of those places. And my theme is always get more of what you want out of your career. The biggest problem with the message of getting more of what we want out of our career is that most of us don't know what we want. Sure, we know we need to make a paycheck. We know we need to cover our bills and get health care and all those things that we look at. But when it really comes to getting down to what's most important to us, we generally aren't very good at articulating that. Anytime I'll say to somebody, what do you want out of your career? Or what do you want in your next job? Or what do you want to do career-wise for the rest of your life? Most people say, well, I'll tell you what I don't want to do. So my experience is we're really good at talking about what we don't want to do. But when it comes to getting really clear on what we do want to do, we just kind of go, I don't know. And we start saying things like, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And I'm saying that in a whiny voice on purpose because it is kind of whiny, to be honest. People usually say it with a laugh, like, oh, I don't really know what I want to do when I grow up. But it's not really funny. It's not funny to me anyway, because I feel like you've got to figure out what you want when you grow up. When you grow up. You're already grown up. Chances are you're already grown up. So what is it? What can you do? What else can you do? What else can you do? It's a tough question, isn't it? I went through a process myself. A little louder, somebody says. I don't know why I'm not speaking loudly. I'll try to take my voice up. I'm not sure why I'm not speaking loudly. But there are things like complete career changes. I have the person that I go to for yoga. She was doing customer service for a financial company or investment company, customer service. And she is now a yoga teacher. That's a complete change. And those are hard. Those are hard, especially if you're sitting there in your job saying, I really don't want, I want something completely different, but I don't know what I want. Here's the problem. A lot of times we don't have to make a complete change like that. I would call that a 180. I'd call that a complete 180 in terms of, I'm going to try to turn up here, see if that helps. I would call that a complete 180. If you go from being a financial services customer service rep to a yoga teacher, that's a complete 180. Some of us want that, and some of us just want to be happier in what we do. So let's talk about the different types of job changes. There's a complete 180, just like that example I gave. Then there are the kind of thoughts where you think, I like what I do, but I just don't like where I do it. So I want to keep doing the same kind of work, but I want to do it in a different culture or a different place or a different way. Okay? You could also say, I hate what I do. I really don't like what I do, but I love my company or the place I'm working. And so each of those requires a different set of actions based on which one of those is mostly you. So let's say you love what you do, you don't like where you're doing it. And it could be for a variety of reasons, and none of them are wrong. So let's say that you like what you do, you don't like where you do it because you don't like leadership. You don't like the mission and values of the organization. Your commute's too long. You don't like your coworkers culturally. So you need to take what you do and take it to someplace else. So in that case, you want to think about, where else would I like to do it? What other kind of places? You have to figure out what's wrong first. If it's a distance of your commute, if you don't like the leadership, or the values of the organization, then you really do have to change companies. You have to change locations. And so you'll want to do some research on, you want to get really clear on what kind of culture you thrive in, what kind of culture and work environment's best for you. There are people who love a really structured work environment where everybody walks in the door at 8 or 8:30 and does things in a certain way all day, and that's okay. There are other people that's like nails on a chalkboard. So what is it? You've got to be able to articulate what's not working for you to make a change. So that's one example. You like what you do, but you don't like where you do it. Here's another one. You like your company, you like what you love your organization, you believe in what they do, you're happy to be a part of it, but you don't feel like you're in the right role. That's different. You've got to have, so you know you want to stay. It's not necessarily a job change, it's a move inside the organization. So you want to have the right conversations with people to say, you know what, here's where I think I could be a best fit for your organization. For this organization, I love it here, I love everything about it, but I'm getting a little tired of my role, or I'd like to add these things to my role. So you've got to get super clear on what isn't working, and you have to be able to articulate that before you know what to do. Sometimes we'll have conversations with people who are unhappy at work, and we'll start asking questions because we want to try to figure out what needs to change. So for instance, if you go to the doctor and you say, I hurt all over, the doctor has no clue how to help you. That's why they ask you all those questions, to help you figure out what you need to change. And so the first thing you want to think about is, what do I need to change? Can I get it where I am? And if you've decided you don't like your organization, then no, you can't. You have to change jobs. But if you like your organization in general, but you just want a different role, that's about having a conversation with the right people internally. But what if you say, you know, I hate what I do. I've always hated it. I have these dreams of doing something else. I have these dreams of doing something big, and I want to figure out what that is. So, how do you go about that? So, the hardest part about this is we get really stuck in our heads, and we start thinking, well, this is all I can do. Have you ever had one of these conversations with yourself? This is all I can do. No one would ever hire me to do that. How would I even make the change? Could I even make money doing that? I just better stick with where I am. I'm too old to make that change. That's my least favorite. I'm too old to make that change. And so I'm just going to stay right here for the next 20 years. I got news for you. Unless you're like mid to late 60s, you still have enough runway left to make a career change, to move to something else. You just have to have the courage to do it. So I will often hear from people who are like, let's say 40. And they're like, oh, I'm in my 40s. Oh, you're going to hear my dogs. I'm in my 40s. That's too old. I heard somebody last week, I'm 45. What can I do? Well, here's the deal. If you're 45, maybe you've been in the workplace for 23 years. You could have 20 years left to work. So do you want to just stick with what you were doing? So you want to get really close. So some questions you can ask yourself. Where do I want my impact to be? Where and how do I want to use my time and talents to connect and to give and to serve and to, what's going to make me the happiest? At the end of the day, of every day, at the end of the week, what's going to make me say, I had a good week? What does that look like and feel like? What am I doing when I'm really happy? What are the kind of things that if I'm doing them, doesn't even feel like work? You've got to get really clear on what those are. I want more of this and less of this. Some clues. What are some of the things you want to do? What are some of the things that you want to do when you were a child? What did you want to do when you were a child? What did you want to do when you were a teenager? What did you major in? All those things are clues. The problem is when we do things like assessments, we assume that right answer is going to come at the end. We turn to the last page and I say, okay, here's my thing. You're like, oh, I don't want to do that. All these things are clues as to what you could be good at and how you could reinvent yourself. And it doesn't have to be a wholesale reinvention. It can be just a little turn. It could make all the difference in the world if you liked what you did, but you didn't like where you did it, and you went and found a different place to use your skills. That could propel you from unhappy to happy. So these tweaks, these pivots, these things we can do to make ourselves a better fit. And one of my favorite questions really is, where do you want your impact to be? How do you want to use your time and your talent and your skills? What's most important to you? Getting really clear on that is important. I think a lot of times people think, so this example I gave of someone who was a financial customer service person and went to do yoga, she always liked yoga. She didn't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to become a yoga teacher. It was an interest of hers she developed. So look at all the parts of your life. Where do you feel most alive? Is it in some of the work you do as a volunteer? Is it in some of the work that you do at your church or in your neighborhood, or in something that you give your time and talent to but you don't get paid for? Look back over the jobs that you've liked. What have you liked best about them? How can you get more of that? The reason people hire us is because we help you figure all this stuff out. So I say that just to say that it's really hard to figure it out. So what parts of you do you feel like you leave stuffed in the closet when you go to work every day? What happens sometimes is when we're really unhappy at work, we start to lose our confidence and we spiral down, and we aren't feeling hopeful or confident about what it is that you know that we can do, and we do all this negative head talk. What I started doing is I started keeping a list of jobs that or things people did that I thought were interesting. Am I ever going to do all of them? No, but they all reflected some part of me. Like I put down, I could do substitute teaching because I like teaching and training. Now, would I probably like doing that in a junior high or high school? Maybe not. But what I did was I just started writing things down that appealed to me, even some part of me. And I looked at that list and I said, okay, which of these things could I add to what I do now? And I'm pursuing one of them. But there's also, I still have that list of things that, I may never substitute teach. I don't think I could do it. I don't know. Maybe I could. See, the first thing we say is, I don't know if I could. I don't know if I want to. So what are you talking yourself out of? That's an important point. What are you talking yourself out of that you could be putting time into pursuing? We see these people who are out doing these things that we're like, oh, I wish I could do that. That's just not me. I have said that to myself 1,000 times, which is a bad idea. But what is it? What would you do if you really could do anything? And even if you answer that question, there's some great clues there. Please put your questions and comments on the left. If you have questions about your situation or anything, please put it on the left, and so I can answer it. Is it ever too late? We talk about age discrimination. So let me tell you, if you are, let's say if you're 40 right now and you're listening in, 40 plus. Let me tell you what I tell everybody I talk to who hits that north of 40. When you get to be in your 50s, especially your mid 50s, your willingness and ability to put up with the stuff that you have to put up with at work in a corporate environment will diminish. I am a huge fan of people in their 40s starting to think about what else might I do moving forward that won't require me to take direction from anyone else. What can I do that will give me the freedom and flexibility that I want in my life? I'm telling you, when we talk to potential clients, there's nothing worse than talking to someone who's in their mid-50s. They're looking around going, I am so sick of the corporate life. I'm taking orders from somebody who's the age of my kids. All I want is the freedom and flexibility to do my work. You may be 25 and hearing this and feel that now, but believe me, it's going to get much, much bigger of a deal the more you get. I always say the deeper I got into my 50s, the more crabby I got, and the less I was willing to put up with. And so you want to start thinking about, what is your career? What are you going to do when you get to the point that you are more subject to age discrimination and layoffs? You don't want to put up with, you've been through corporate changes a million times. You think you've seen it all. You do not want to be beholden to someone else making those decisions for you the older you get. So what you want to do is start building something so when you get to the point that you want to start cutting back, doing a little travel, spending time on your hobbies and volunteer activities, spending time with grandkids, that you're well positioned to do that. And you can't just wait until you're in your 55 to 58 to 60 to do it. You have to start thinking about it earlier. So if you, I've had clients who will say, well, I'm 48. I feel like I've got 1 to 2 more corporate runs in me, and then I want to start doing something on my own. And so I'll say, okay, so when you get to that point where you do want to leave corporate America and do something on your own, what are you going to want to do? Well, I don't know. I said, okay, so you want to start thinking about that before you hit it, before you hit 50. You want to start thinking about what is your job going to be, or what's your work going to be, that's going to give you the freedom and the flexibility to make the decisions you want to make. And it could be something like starting a small business, like a coffee shop. It's just an example I always use. Not that I'm not saying that's easy, but I'm saying that could be something where you're your own boss. Maybe you want to buy a franchise, a few franchises, and then you hire somebody to run it. So you want to start thinking about that now. Maybe it's you want to hang up a shingle and do your own consulting. Maybe you've got an idea for a product. I mean, I personally love watching Shark Tank because I love all these ideas people come up with. Maybe you've got an idea. Start working on that now. Maybe that's how you're going to spend, those last, 15, 20, 10, 15 years of career runway. So don't wait until the day when you've been kicked out the door of corporate America and you're trying to start something from scratch. Maybe you're younger and you think, I've got this great idea. There's something I want to do, or I'm tired of working for other people who are telling me what to do. I want to make my own way. I'm tired of my hard work going to somebody else's bottom line. There are lots of us that feel that way. And so what can you do? How can you leverage what you know and what you can do and what people value of you to build something on your own? I've got a friend who, every time we walk, she's like, I got this great idea. And she's had at least 10 great ideas. I'm like, you got to just pick one and run with it. Because she's like an idea machine. And they're great. She's like, I know. So the world's full of good ideas. What are you going to do with yours? Maybe you just want to take what you do, take everything you do, and use it differently. Maybe you're an accountant, and you want to go work for a nonprofit using your same skills, but helping a nonprofit become more efficient financially and operationally so they can serve their clients better. That's awesome. Kathleen is on here, and she says, amen, make your own dreams come true. Kathleen is a health coach who who's really, at age, Kathleen, maybe you're 50 or older, I'm not sure. I think probably. But who says you can't start over, start something new? What I find is when you get to that point that you are ready to start something new, you're sort of like, you become like when you're 50s, you're free of what other people expect of you. And if other people don't believe in you, then you need to hang out with some different people. You can create almost anything you want to create. Now, it's really hard. It's really, really, really hard. And I think people forget that. One of my favorite sayings is about, when you see somebody at the top of a mountain, and they look like, man, they're wildly successful, you only see them at the mountaintop. You don't see all the crap they had to climb to get there. So remember that. Everybody who looks wildly successful has gone through a lot of stuff to get there. You have to pick your poison. Do you want to be miserable at work for the rest of your life until you decide that you can cobble together a retirement? Or do you want to do something really meaningful? Maybe there's some volunteer work that you do that you'd like to try to turn into a career. So really take a look backward at your career and think about the things that you liked about it, the things that went well for you, the times you were the happiest, and then brainstorm ideas about how to get more of that. And maybe you can't do it today. I think that's a really important point. If you know what you want to do, but you say to yourself, you know what, I can't do it today for whatever reason. I mean, maybe you really can't. You've got kids going to college. You've got, an elderly parent you're dealing with. You have a pile of debt. At least you start working toward something. So what is it that you can start working toward right now so that you are ready for it in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever your runway is. What are those things that you can start working toward now? So, what questions do you have? Put a question or comment on the left. Are you in something and you're trying to figure out how to get from someone from point A to point B? Tell us what it is. Um, Tell us what it is that's going to help you get from point A to point B. Um, what is it that you want to do? Or do you not know what your point B is? Are you more in a position where you don't know what your point B is, um, or do you know what your point B is? You just don't know how to get there. Which one describes you? Answer on the left or in private message. I think for most people, they have some idea. Here's my theory. Most people have some idea, but they don't want to say it. They don't want to put it out there. I don't want anybody to laugh at me. Um, I don't want anybody to make fun of me and tell me I can't do this. I'm afraid to say it because if I say it, it means I have to go do it. So most of us have something we want to do, um, but we're too afraid. And pardon me if I told this story 2 weeks ago when you were on here, but sometimes I listen to Dr. Laura, even though I don't agree with a lot of what she says. If you don't know who she is, Dr. Laura Schlesinger, she is extremely abrupt and abrasive and kick-ass and very, very, very conservative, which is not me. But I love listening to her call of the day on. I love listening to her call of the day on as a podcast. And a woman called in and was like, "I hate my job, but I think I'm gonna go do something else." And Dr. Laura said, "Well, do you think you'll like that?" And she said, "No." Dr. Laura said, "Well, then why would you do it? Better benefits. Why? Okay, so you're just gonna go hate your job but have better benefits." "Well, yeah." "Well, what would you do if you could do anything?" "I don't know." She said, "Yes, you do." She barks at people. I would never do. "Yes, you know what you would do. What is it?" "I don't know." Went on for like 3 or 4 times. Finally, the lady says, "I'd refinish furniture." And Dr. Laura goes, "There you go. I knew you knew it." And I loved that because I believe that we all know what we want to do deep down. And we talk ourselves out of it for a variety of reasons. So, what is it that you'd like to do? What is it that you'd like to do more of? Did you know that if you're looking to start a business, you'd like to be self-employed? Did you know that there are kick-ass free resources available in Cincinnati and in every town through something called SCORE? That's like the Corps of Retired Executives, SCORE, SCORE. Free coaching and help to people who want to start their own businesses. Contact them. They'll help you with a business plan. They'll help you get financing. They'll help you with all of that. You have to invest in your career to make it matter to you. So what questions do you have? What thoughts? How many of you are confused about you don't know what you want, or you do know what you want, you don't know how to get it? If you know what you want and you don't know how to get it, you're actually in a pretty good spot because you can hire a coach, you can invest in a coach. That's what we do. You can go to SCORE. You can get people to help you. You can do research online. You can join discussion groups. You can network with people who already do it to give you some ideas. If you don't know what you want to do, start stepping back and saying, what is it I want to do? How will you get there? What's your plan? What's your time frame? It is not easy. It's so hard. You have to have a plan. You've got to reach out to people and you have to be diligent. But so is hating your job. So is crying in the car on the way to work. So I don't see any questions. So that's really all I wanted to say today. Does anybody have any questions before we close? Any questions? Okay. Well, I don't see anything, so I hope this kick in the seat of the pants has helped you start thinking about what else you want. This is the best time possible, and don't tell me you're too old. I'm 60 and I still feel like I could reinvent myself easily. And yeah, I struggle just like everybody else on what would that look like. But until you start digging in and figuring out and believing in yourself and getting people's getting people's input, you're going to stay stuck right where you are, and I don't want that for you. So reach out if you're interested in investing in coaching. I try to come back here every Wednesday at noon. If you have a topic you'd like me to cover or talk about on Sloanie, please send me a message on Facebook. And I'll see you again soon. Take care and go get career happy.